Hey everyone, welcome to the Mayo Experience. UFC picks, but as you all know that I am not the one that you want to be hearing the UFC picks from. So, what I've done is to get together the Dogger Pass podcast members, Paul Shaughnessy, Cody Saftic. They will be breaking down every single fight for you. So enjoy, give the episode a like, and stay tuned.
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast, the first episode of the Dog or Pass podcast from the beautiful Mayo Experience DK Live Studios. I'm your host, Paul Shaughnessy, joined by my co-host, Cody Saftic, breaking down UFC St. Louis, Choi versus Jeremy Stephens. Interesting card top to bottom. A bunch of really untrustworthy people along this. So
Mostly
it's like
untrustworthy.
You're going to step on some landmines along the way here, but it's always fun. It's tough to say who's going to end up on winning lineups this week, but happy to break it down with you.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're looking at it from a DK perspective anyways, there's just the bottom end echelon fighters, the cheap value fighters. Just nothing's appealing. And if you try to go after the high players, if you want a Kamaru Usman, if you want, Kang or someone like that, you're just paying up so much money. And then, if you just try to base it out of mid-range fighters, you end up with someone like Paige Van Zant, who could very easily blow it completely.
Well, that's the thing, is that there's a bunch of these fights that, the mid-range is all, like, the pricing is all based on the odds, and the mid-range, it's a 50-50 type of situation. So. Yeah. It's an interesting one, to say the least.
Well, we discussed it also kind of off camera as well, that Kamaru Usman, he's top welterweight in the world. He's a top prospect. I don't know if you still call him a prospect at this point. I mean, he's pretty much a bona fide good 170-pound fighter. But outside of that, you got a bunch of untrustworthy fighters, whether it's Jeremy Stephens, who won his last fight over Gilbert Melendez but has been losing, Choi coming off a loss, Vitor, Uriah Hall, Paige Van Zant, Emil Weber-Meek, Michael Johnson, 1-4 in his last 5, James Krause, Alex White, Paulo Reyes. Nobody is really trustworthy. No one's really you're going to jump on him. And Usman, the only person that is a 6-1 favorite. Mm-hmm. So we're not exactly the favorite or pass podcast. So we got to find some dogs someplace. But there's going to be some of these greasy fights that I think someone's going to squeak by.
Speaking of untrustworthy, you were a big proponent during this whole process, our transitionary period into this studio that we have, of saying, Paul making all these promises, he's untrustworthy. I just wonder if you have anything to say about all of that.
Okay, first of all, Paul is as untrustworthy as my hairline, pal. Okay, and second of all, you were promising the people that we were going to have video format.
Did I deliver?
Studio format.
Did I deliver?
Yeah. I feel bad though, because I feel like the odd person was thinking that by video returning they meant there's going to be viz on it, and obviously because we are not a UFC rights holder currently, there won't be any viz on it. But
baby
want to see
steps.
Our beautiful mugs.
Baby steps. Eventually we can get there. Anyway, let's get into the action here. That's what we're here to break down. We got in the main event the return of Choi. He's 8,500 on DK. He's taking on Jeremy Lil Heathen Stephens, 7,700. Choi's a -160 favorite with the comeback on Stephens plus 140. What's your take on this one?
Well, if you're going to look at it from a perspective of dog versus pass, then Jeremy Stephens really isn't that bad of a value. This is a fight I keep going back and forth on. What I mean by that is both guys have a path to victory. If you're Choi here, you're only 26 years old. You never really had that big fight, that gut check performance until the last fight against Cub Swanson, and he came up short. Prior to that, dude, he's smashing nobodies. I mean, Juan Manuel Puig, oh my God, you KO'd him. Sam Sicilia. Oh my God, and even, you know what? I like Thiago Tavares, I really do, but all the same, you know what I'm saying here, right? You blast out 3 guys in the first round, everyone says you're going to be the next big thing, you're young, you're hungry, you're KOing guys that generally get KO'd, and you're doing it so quickly that they just throw you into this big pressure cooker situation where you're on a pay-per-view main card against a guy like Cub Swanson. It's a big fight. It's a fight that he went on record saying, oh, I look up to Cub Swanson, I'd love to have this. And listen, it's competitive, and he has his moments as well. But at the end of the day, he got, his 77 significant strikes landed. That's impressive, but getting landed on 111 times against Cub Swanson, he got outworked, he was into deep waters, a place that he really hadn't been in his career so far, and he came up short. If you're looking at Jeremy Stephens as a tough gatekeeper level opponent, well, that's exactly what he is. He's been KO'd 1 time in his entire career, and it was against Yves Edwards a long time ago. So if you're looking at the fact that, if anything, Jeremy Stephens is just super durable, he's going to take you into deeper waters. He's going to take you into a 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round situation.
Does Choi get tired, though? We didn't see him get tired, really. He got tired because he got absolutely murdered. Like, he got hit so hard. That's the thing that we kind of saw there. His body was shutting down on him because his brain had taken so much trauma.
Yeah,
I'm happy that the kid has
sure.
taken this much time off. He's young, lots of promise. And Stevens, like, I like Stevens, but when he really shines, it seems that he's beaten up on wrestlers with kind of a rudimentary old, boxer wrestler type of game. Duo Choi's not that. I think Choi may be able to come back in here, show us why he was one of the highest touted prospects, and not put him away. I think if Choi wins, probably goes 5 rounds, maybe finishes him late. But it's tough to put away Lil Heathen, that's for sure.
Why is he a highly touted prospect? I just want to know. Because I don't disagree with you.
I just think just based on watching him.
Sure, and everybody says
like
the same
what
thing.
I see from his technique, his ability to read angles, to set up his shots, like he looks like an elite striker. He's young. He's taken the time off after taking a world-class level beating, which you never know. People sometimes don't come back from that.
We just don't know.
Sometimes with these younger fighters,
right.
we had it with like Sage Northcutt not that long ago, where you know that these young people, if they are gone for 6 months, when they come back, the amount of improvements that they've made are just so much higher than like a Jeremy Stevens. We know what we're getting with Jeremy Stevens coming into this fight. If Choi's spent the last year, I know he was injured, but if he spent all of the time that he could in the last 14 months improving his game, improving his craft, working on different elements, I think we could see something really special on Sunday night.
But once again, I feel like now you're just kind of buying into hype. Oh, well, he looked good against average level opponents, and he's had time off. And
he looked good against Cobb in a way. He just got hit a lot.
Sure, but it's just so cliche to when people always, and listen, you know me, we talk about it all the time. I said the same thing, right? Oh, I was picking Northcutt. Why? Because he's young and he's going to be getting better and he's training hard. I agree with you. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate to the point that if everyone's always just assuming, oh, he's young and he's had time off, he's going to come back better, we don't know. Sage North could have been in a couple tough fights. Brian Barberina fight was probably his toughest fight. But when has he been in a war? This was a war. This is a fight of the year. This is, I need to take 12 months off because my brain's completely rattled. How does he come back from that? I don't know. He's also got impending military service coming up. He talks about how I'd like to get a title shot before I got to do my 2 years mandatory. So where's his head at? I don't know. Does he think he's got to go out there and blow Jeremy Stevens out in the first round in order to get this fight? Who knows? Likewise,
I'd like for him to take his time, set up his shots.
He doesn't have the in the fight.
In the fight.
Yeah, fair.
Because the thing is, the one thing that keeps jumping out at me, and I flip-flopped a little bit on it.
I'm flip-flopping.
But I just think that Jeremy Stevens is the prototypical type of fighter he could be. He's not very fast. His striking's, I wouldn't want to say basic, but like he's not throwing anything crazy at you.
Whoa. He's the hardest hitting featherweight in the division, Paul.
Yeah.
He doesn't TKO people. He knocks them out.
This is true. He hasn't knocked anybody out in a little while.
No, I know. I think it's 8 of his last 9 fights have gone the distance.
Yeah.
He knocked out Dennis Bermudez, which
Sam
was
Stout,
the unheralded fight of the night.
He ruined Sam Stout. I'll give him that. Sam Stout was never the same after that fight.
All the same, all I'm saying was Jeremy Stevens is a big power puncher, so I actually agree with you. Not that he's rudimentary, because he's not, but you kind of see the punches coming with him, and he's got to land that big shot.
Whereas Cub Swanson was not rudimentary. Cub Swanson is basically a more experienced, more seasoned version of what I see in Duho Choi.
Okay,
so that's what I'm saying is that the style makes it a good stylistic matchup for Duho Choi in this spot. I could be totally wrong, but I'll be taking Duho Choi on some DK lineups. If this goes 5 rounds, you know that Choi is looking for the kill, and he's throwing quite a bit of output over the course of 5 rounds. Stevens is hard to put away. You could see a lot of strikes landed, and I think he could definitely overdo his value in this fight.
Yeah. Ultimately, all I'm saying is with Jeremy Stevens is that it is going 5 rounds.
You have Stevens.
That. No, I'm just trying to. If you just let me finish my point here,
okay.
I'm saying Jeremy Stevens has a good shot at winning this fight. He's definitely, if you're looking at the fact that he is the underdog, he is cheap on DK. There is some merit to him. If you're going to play multiple lineups and you need a punt guy, Jeremy Stevens is the guy you can put on there. With Duho Choi, he's knocking guys out in the first round. He's used to going out there, touching them, and they roll over. Against Cub Swanson, he touches him, he hurts him, but he doesn't roll over. Now I know what you're saying. He didn't get tired in that fight per se. It was the damage that he was taking. But there's no denying that once he starts getting hit, once he starts getting hurt, he's not moving his head whatsoever. He's a punching bag. And Cub Swanson,
I'm sure he'll learn from that.
Cub Swanson's not a huge power puncher, right? Jeremy Stevens, I get that he's a little slower and he's a lot more plodding, but in a 5-round situation, if you're going to stand there in front of him, we talk about this guy's old and, you know, maybe he is slower. Against the Gilbert Melendez fight, Gilbert Melendez, who was just a stationary target there for him, he landed like 93 significant strikes. It was by far the most significant strikes he had ever landed in a fight, because he has a guy that's going to stand there in front of him. So all I'm saying is you got a young kid, 26 years old, coming off a year-long absence, coming off a crazy fight where he took a lot of damage against a grizzly, savvy veteran like Jeremy Stephens.
So what you're saying is you have Stephens?
No. I just want to say why Jeremy Stephens. Yeah, because ultimately Jeremy Stephens, and I think you were touching on it, at least a little bit, struggles with speed. He struggles with guys that are a little more dynamic, right? So you look at the guys that he's lost to. The Ease Edwards fight, let's throw that out the window. So long ago, I get it. But beyond that, Max Holloway is a fast guy. Cub Swanson is a fast guy. But the real fight that really gives you the gauge is Moicano. Because Moicano's not really a striker, but he's a lot faster than Jeremy Stephens.
I think that's what Choi can do to him.
So he just backpedals the whole time. Stephens is slow, man. He's so slow. There's no doubt he can throw a haymaker. There's no doubt he's one of those guys that's a designated hitter. He's real slow, but if he connects with that ball, it's gone. And I think that's where he's going to run into trouble. I do see the merit for him. I do see if you're going to take a punt play and you need to save some money on DK, in a 5-round situation, that grizzly veteran, he's not above winning this fight. I'm not writing him off completely. I know people love to get behind Doo Ho Choi and look at him as a top prospect. I get that. But at the end of the day, he struggled against the elite competition he's fought, and Jeremy Stephens, maybe not elite, but he's a gatekeeper. He's a top 15 guy. He's always in the conversations. So this is going to be a tougher fight for Choi, but the speed's going to be a big thing. If it was a 3-round fight, Choi would have a better shot. 5-round, he's got to show me something, right? Because if he stays as a stationary target, he's going to get hurt. But he should have more punch output. He is a lot faster, and traditionally, that is what Jeremy Stephens has struggled against. I get that he looked good against Gilbert Melendez, but Gilbert Melendez dropping down to 145 pounds at age 35, what a stupid idea that was. And he shot 0 takedowns. Like, you were fighting a punching bag, a zombie version of Gilbert Melendez.
Gilbert was a shell of himself at that point.
Yeah, so we can say, yeah, he looked good in his last fight, but ultimately we got to look back to previous fights where he's a lot slower, and the Moicano fight's a real indication of how he fights when he's got to chase a guy down, and the guy's just quicker than him, beats him to the punch. So I'm going to go here Choi, but for 8,500 on DK, the fact that it's 5 rounds helps out. I don't love it, but it's not bad. There's some worse values on this than that. And then for minus 160, God, I don't really like that all that much, but he's rightfully so the favorite. I just don't know that I want to put that much chalk on him, but we'll see. This is going to be a close competitive fight, I think.
Co-main event, we got Uriah Primetime Hall taking on Vitor Belfort. Hall is 9,100 on DK, and Belfort is 7,100. Betting line, minus 325 for Hall, plus 265 Belfort. I'm not touching Belfort with a 10-foot pole at this point. The guy's done. You look at him in 2012 when he was TRT Tour, and that guy was jacked. He was so jacked. He was a monster. 2017, 2018, not the same guy anymore. He's talking about
retirement. We haven't seen him in 2018, Paul. Yeah, maybe he's back on the TNT.
Not if the fight's not in Brazil, I'll tell you that much. The thing here is that the Hall, this happened in like the Andersons, or this has happened anytime he's fought some legends per se, is that he kind of seems to have this respect level. He won't just put it to his opponent.
Dude, that's not just when he fights legends. That's whenever he fights ever. He's a super tentative guy.
He's super talented, and he's got all of these flashy techniques, and he looks like he's got the goods, but he just doesn't deliver the goods a lot of the times. Minus 325, you can't. I don't feel safe doing that, even against a faded Belfort. Hall probably wins this fight, but it could get really close, and it could go to decision, and
yeah.
Like if Hall just sits back and lets Vitor like steal the end of rounds, like these are all things that are possible in my mind.
I get it.
I don't want this is a pure fade on DK, pure fade from a betting perspective. To be perfectly honest, I want no part of this fight, just because Hall's too untrustworthy, and Belfort's already talking about starting a Legends League and fighting, and which I would totally be down with. Crow Cop versus TRT Tour and Ryzen. Sign me up.
I'm so down, but Vitor Belfort sounds like he's got brain damage these days. And I'm not talking like stuttered speech, but the crap that comes out of his mouth, he'd be like, man, I'm retiring unless they pay me $10 million per fight. Well, that's never going to happen, so you might as well just say, I'm going to retire.
Nate Diaz?
And then what? Before he fought Nate Marquardt, he's like, I'm retired, but I'd like to fight CM Punk. It's like, what the fuck fuck are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? You're a legend. Have some self-respect for yourself, dude. What are you talking about fighting guys that have no idea what they're doing? So you're going to have to give him somebody. The thing is if you look at the Nate Marquardt fight, Marquardt could probably win that fight. To be honest, Marquardt does nothing. He literally stands in front of Vitor and just does nothing.
Those are two guys that, like, their chins are gone. They're completely faded versions of themselves.
Faded version of themselves. But that's where I start to think, ooh, geez, you know, this Rye Hall fight could get a little greasy. I got Hall winning, but for minus 325, like we talked about, there's a lot of untrustworthy guys in this card. Hall is untrustworthy. And listen, he's fighting the best guys. If you look at his recent losing streak prior to being Jocko, but let's just look back at that losing streak. Lose to Derek Brunson, okay, there's a top 5 guy, and he loses to Gegard Mousasi, who in my opinion was a top 5 guy, and he loses to Robert Whittaker, who's the #1 guy. So that's a tough-ass run, man. But the Jocko fight, he's pretty much dead in that first round. He survives, he gets the KO in round 2. If he didn't survive that first round, which is, by the way, a 10-8 at the very least, but if they would have just stopped that fight, that's a 4-fight losing streak. This guy's cut. He's probably on a Bellator card. But the fact that he's able to survive and he pulls out one of those magical, you know, rabbits out of the hat, which he's been known to do, knocked out Gegard Mousasi the first time, rabbit out of the hat, beats Jotko, 3-1 favorite in his next fight. Why? Why? We don't trust this guy. We know that he's just super tentative, right? And like you're saying, when he fights either a legend, I just see him fight when he fights anybody. You talk about the fact that he should be able to beat Vitor Belfort. Well, he should be able to beat Rafael Natal as well. The thing is that he just doesn't do anything, man.
And he may have beaten Rafael Natal, but...
To be honest, I had money on him. I had money on him, so like part of me is like, oh, come on.
He made it way too close for what it should have been. Like, he should have been the much more technical, better striker.
He stands.
And he just waits for the other guy to do stuff too much.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll change his game around, but you can't trust or bet or put in your DK lineups on these maybes all that much. At least at 9,100 on DK, I don't want a maybe. If I'm going to be paying up into this range, like... I'm going to be paying up for Usman an extra 300 rather than Hall.
Yeah,
maybe that'll be the death of me, but that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's just super untrustworthy. And then if you're Vitor Belfort, it's pretty untrustworthy. The thing that kind of makes me more hesitant to even put any type of action here is one, just like I said, the price on Hall is terrible. And if you're looking at the DK price on him, it's terrible. So if you try to convince yourself that, well, then maybe Vitor Belfort's a good pick. Is he going to finish Hall? Not likely. Hall's actually pretty durable for the most part. I mean, he's actually kind of hard to put away. And Vitor Belfort's just not what he used to be. But if Hall goes in there and he thinks to himself, okay, well, Vitor is the old black belt. You know, he's not that bad on the ground. He's bad on the ground against Jacare, don't get me wrong. He's bad on the ground against elite level guys like Chris Weidman.
We've never seen Belfort do anything good on the ground.
Yeah, but he's against Jacare and Chris Weidman.
All these Brazilian guys, they all have black belts. None of them actually. There's a bunch of them that I'm calling bullshit on a bunch of these black belts on some of these old school Brazilian dudes.
Has Rafael Natal, or sorry, has Uriah Hall ever done anything on the ground that's given you any type of impression? He's actually got it.
Belfort pulled guard on Jacare.
Yeah,
that was the worst. That was the worst decision maybe anybody's ever made. No, let's do like the best. Let's pull guard against the most dominant top position BJJ guy in the world.
He almost broke John Jones's arm. You know, who knows, dude? It's
that
was
crazy TRT Tour though. These are different people. These are different beasts.
This TRT Tour up a weight class, right?
Fair.
So there's definitely things that you can look at. All I'm saying is that because he's been around for a lot longer, he's obviously probably got a grappling advantage. Not over the top level guys, but over a guy like Uriah Hall, maybe. And if you're Uriah Hall and you're thinking that if I go in there explosive and I go in there quick and I try to get a fast start on him, if I end up on my back, probably don't want to be there. Likewise to that, if you think to yourself, well, he is Vitor Belfort. He could land that big shot on me. I better take my time. Then you're going in there tentative. All I'm saying is if this is a slow, tentative fight, then it might be like Brunson Anderson Silva, where the fight's so bad the judges say, give it to the legend, whatever. Give the old dog a bone.
Yeah, send him packing with a dub.
He's about to retire.
If he wins this fight, you know he's coming back.
Of course, and that's why I don't want him to win the fight. But I can't convince myself to bet the dog here because how shot he's looked recently, man. And by the way, he's looked shot. I know he's won his last fight, but I think we can all agree after that walloping he took against Kelvin Gastelum, welterweight Kelvin Gastelum, that the best days of Vitor Belfort are gone. And he doesn't need the best days of his career to beat Hall, but he needs a good performance. I just think he's past that. But the value's not there on Hall. I can't really convince myself into it. So this one's pretty much a clean pass for me, both on DK and a betting perspective.
Jessica Rose Clark takes on Paige Van Zant. Rose Clark is 8,200 on DK. Van Zant, 8,000. pretty much a straight pick 'em, ever so slight favorite to Jessica Rose Clark in this spot.
It's tightening up though.
It's minus 115, minus 105. Like it's a pick 'em.
Well, Van Zant was plus 115, I think, when the odds opened, and I was real tempted to hit it. But then I watched some footage. I was like,
Yeah. Well, they both.
I might hit it. Well, I'm not gonna hit it on the betting perspective. Is what I'm saying.
So we talked about how Rose Clark was not very good. Like she's not, and she isn't. I still don't believe that she is.
Yeah.
I feel similar to this as I did about like Nico Price. I watched tape, watched all these things, and he burned me twice from like me fading him because I didn't believe that he was actually that good. And I was kind of proven right when he took on Vicente Luque, who's, you know, his record. Vicente Luque's record doesn't tell you how good he actually is.
Very talented guy. Very talented.
I feel as though this is a similar situation. They both have taken on Beck Rawlings. And Beck Rawlings.
Yeah.
She used to be Beck Hyatt.
Beck Hyatt. Took me a while to get that one out of my head.
They both taken her on. Jessica
Santos.
Rose Clark dominated her, basically pillar to post. Van Zant was getting outboxed in the first round and like staying like 17 feet away from Rawlings in the first round. And then she landed the one kick that they'll basically the media, the hype machine will constantly show you that jumping scissor kick or whatever the hell you call it.
Flying switch kick, yeah.
She didn't look good, but she's had the time off. Leading up to the loss to Watterson, there was a lot of BS going around. Like, she was doing Dancing with the Stars, and she was doing this, and she was doing that. I think she's probably focused this time around. Plus, this is a hand-picked opponent. She was. You've heard about how she was supposed to fight Jessica Ai, and there was a bout agreement sent out, and then all of a sudden that got retracted. Like after Jessica Rose Clark beat Beck Rawlings, all of a sudden. Like, I think, you know, Uriah and the team basically called in and were just like, give her Paige. Give her Paige.
I got mixed thoughts on that, to be honest with you.
That's what I think happened.
Yeah, well, could be.
So what I'm saying is that I think it's going to be a close fight. The line suggests that Van Zant could be the better athlete. She's younger. Another thing, like when we were talking about Choi earlier, she's younger. Maybe she's made some improvements. She's at the right gym to be making improvements. So we'll see what... I think she's less distracted coming into this fight. And it's not against a high-level opponent. It was just Jessica Rose Clark had a great performance. I see a lot of love for Jessica Rose.
Wasn't a great performance, but yeah, I hear
by her standards, we thought we sat on this program and really cut her up and then kind of looked stupid.
Okay, but to my credit on there, because I went out there and I said, listen, Jessica Rose Clark is very untalented, but... As soon as, if you rewatch the episode, literally we look at it right
Nobody
before.
has time for that.
No, I know, but as soon as we passed through that fight, I says, oh wait, this fight's at 125 pounds. Yeah. Beck Rawlings is going up to 125 pounds.
And then she came in super heavy too, right?
Jessica Rose Clark took the
came
fight
in
on
at
short
like
notice.
129.
She took the fight on short notice. She came in heavy. At that point, you realize you got a 115er that's going up, taking on a girl that used to fight at 135 who missed weight. Fighters on that card that missed weight, 4 of them. All 4 of them got the victory. That one was greasy, right?
People used to go against the grain on that, and that's not the move anymore. If people miss weight, my thing is like if someone misses weight by like 5 pounds, giddy up, let's go. Like Prazeres has a fight coming up. I'm gonna bet Prazeres, and I want that dude to miss weight. I may even bet like a unit or 2 and then like hope that he misses weight by like 5 pounds. If he misses weight by 5 pounds, I think he's going to be even better because when he goes in at 155 and he's missed weight, he's probably going to be 180 by fight night.
No, that's the thing. But who
people
knows?
are cheating and they probably have to rectify this. But in the meantime, when people miss weight by a lot, giddy up, let's go. That means that they didn't deplete themselves completely and are still planning on fighting.
Yeah, if they're like Mizuta Harada dead on the scale, I'm going to bet against them. I don't give a crap. But at the same time, most of them at this point realize like, I don't really feel all that good. I'm just going to shut it down right here and give my 20% away because what's 20%? Come on, let's be real.
When you're making 10 grand to fight, it's 2 grand.
No, you got 2 options here. You got 2 options.
But you get your win bonus, right?
I could keep my 20% and lose the fight and only get 50%, or I could give away 20%, win my win bonus, and still come out ahead.
All right, we're off topic. Jessica Rose Clark or Paige Van Zant? Who you got?
Okay, well, anyways, like you said, Paige Van Zant training at Team Alpha Male, getting better. Not training at Team Alpha Male. She's actually left that camp. She's gone to Oregon. She trains with like Chael Sonnen. And honestly, I'm not...
Ooh, I don't like that.
Yeah, I can't really back her here. First of all, you got to realize that there was a time where she's at Team Alpha Male and she's super pretty and everyone's behind her. The UFC marketing machine is getting behind her. She does Dancing with the Stars. You kind of alluded to the fact that when she took on Michelle Waterson, that her head's not really in it. I just don't think her head's really ever been in it. She's athletic. She's pretty. She's seems to have a good cardio, right? She's got a good gas tank, but she hasn't really made those marginal improvements that's allowing her to face better competition. I get that she's young and I get that she's better, but she's at Alpha Male and she's like the princess at Alpha Male. Cynthia Calvillo is infinitely better than she is.
Yep.
And I think she's getting whipped in there, and then they all realize, why are we backing Paige Van Zant when we really need to get behind Cynthia Calvillo, who... I get that she's coming off a loss, but all the same, and by the way, I don't know why she was surprised. She lost that fight.
Oh, yeah, clear.
She clearly lost that fight.
That was an easy fight. I mean, I bet Esparza there.
Yeah, and I never bet Esparza.
I bet her because, well, it was like plus 265 or plus 200 underdog against somebody who's a legit collegiate wrestler taking on another grappler.
No, they have similar styles,
like
man.
Cody Saftic always says, styles make fights, and that style was kryptonite for what Calvillo is good at.
So if you look at Paige, right, now she leaves Team Alpha Male, she goes to Oregon, right? Right away that she gets to Oregon, she picks up a couple injuries, she picks up ringworm, she picks up like a sinus infection and pink eye and stuff like that. Like, yeah, from greasy mats, man. Now all of a sudden she gets to schedule a fight with Jessica Eye. But she pulls out of the fight with Jessica Eye because she got an injury. Now she doesn't want to fight Jessica Eye anymore. Oh, I don't want to fight her because she realizes I can't beat Jessica Eye. So you know what she starts telling people on social media? I'm fighting the winner of this season of Tough for the title. No, you're not, bitch. No, you're not. You probably beat them, don't get me wrong, but why are you trying to bypass a tough fight? Because just mentally, don't think she's got it. I think the training at Team Alpha Male is a little too tougher, so she goes to Oregon. Now, here's where things really start to get interesting here. Because at first I thought Paige Van Zant should probably be the favorite over Jessie Jess Rose Clark because she's faster and she's more athletic. She's going to be a little more dynamic. But she got out-muscled bad against Michelle Waterson, who used to fight at 105 pounds. Now she's taking on Jessie Jess Rose Clark, who used to fight at 135 pounds. She's going up to 125, and this girl's coming down to 125. She's going to be big, she's going to be physical. Look at Paige Van Zant versus Bec Rawlings. She loses the first round. How does she lose the first round? Because Bec Rawlings is bigger and more physical and bullies her around. She lands that kick in the second round, but that was just bad game
She'd thrown
playing.
it up like 6 times. Like
her corner physically told her, stop doing that. And you know what she did? She did it. And it landed. Let's all praise her. But imagine it didn't land. She got taken down. They'd have been like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
But she lands it. So like you're saying, it's going to be...
She would have been able to maybe win a scramble in that spot too, though. But.
She could have been. But the last time she looked good was against Alex Chambers. Like, think about that for a second. The last time she physically looked good was against a girl who anybody would look at. A debut fighter who had been training for a year just looked good against Alex Chambers. Alex, not the same fighter she used to be, but she got completely decimated by Rose Namajunas. People will say, well, she was able to last in that fight and go some rounds. She landed 10 significant strikes in all of that time. She got decimated. Against Michelle Waterson, she got decimated. She's getting beaten up by these girls that can out-grapple her. And if anything that we saw from Rose Clark is she's big, she's physical, and she's just going to march forward. She's going to be able to bully you around a little bit. She's a no-nonsense kind of fighter. And the fact is, she wasn't great when she was out of Australia, like we talked about. She wasn't great when she was with Invicta. I get it. But she has been in Las Vegas, I think, the last 2 years now. She's full-time at Syndicate MMA, and now you're starting to see the improvements out of her. Now you're starting to hear from people that train down there, you know, Jamie Moyle and Misha Tate saying, hey, this girl's really not that bad. She's rugged. And rugged gets you places. Look at a Francisco Trinaldo. Look at a Michelle Prazeres. Being big and strong and physical can get you by some of these pretty finesse fighters. So Paige Van Zant probably is the more skilled fighter.
Look at Darren Elkins.
Darren Elkins is the same way. It's just like, dude, I'm gigantic for the weight class, and I'm just going to put it on you until you break. And even if you're Mirsad Bektic and you're way more talented than I am, I'm going to break you at some point. Now, that's just the way I see it going. When it was plus 115, I was tempted on Paige Van Zant. You know, some dog money. But it's not real dog money. Let's be honest here. Plus 115. And now that it's basically even... Now, the thing that is tempting is you need like an 8,000 or sub play on DK.
Yeah, otherwise you're dumpster diving on this card. And
yeah,
that's
and part of me thinks Paige Van Zant's
biz.
going to, because she's smaller, she'll be way faster. So she dances around her and lands strikes great, but she's not really a punch output kind of fighter. She's a diddle-daddle, water gun strike.
If it turns into a grappling exchange, you could get a lot of transitions and you know, a lot of groundwork. I just don't know how this fight is going to look. It could just be a tentative striking match. and that doesn't score very much with the current DK pricing.
Well, Rose
Clark's
last fight, she scored 100 points on DK, and it was a fight that went the distance. And it was a fight that she took the fight on like 8 days' notice, and she completely gassed out in the third round. Bec Rawlings, that was the only round Bec Rawlings won, was the third round because she got tired. Yep. Now give her a full camp against a girl that's smaller than Bec Rawlings. I gotta lean Jessie Rose Clark, but again, we talked at the top of the show. This is a untrustworthy fighter, card, and there's a lot of untrustworthy fighters. So if you want to pass on it, not a bad move. But we're starting this new 2018 season of Toutmaster. We gotta make some picks.
We do.
I think I'm leaning towards Jessie Jess.
Give me Paige Van Zant here. I don't feel great about it. The one guy on the card that you can feel great, the one surefire guy. I think.
Nothing's surefire, but I hear you.
The one lock of the night.
Yeah.
Anything can happen in MMA, but I'd be shocked if Kamaru Usman lost to Emil Weber Meek. Kamaru Usman is the highest priced guy on DK, 9,400. Meek to be had for 6,800. Minus 650 on the betting line, plus 475 Meek. I don't even think that Meek is all that bad. I literally think that Kamaru Usman is very likely the best 170 pounder in the world right now.
Really?
Yeah. I think that striking is coming around. Yeah. And I think his striking is going to be, he's got more dynamic striking than Colby. Colby has a pace that he can put on you, but so can Usman. If those two guys fight, I think Colby may be more busy, but Colby was also eating shots from Damian Maia on the feet.
That's true.
He could take some of that business from Kamaru Usman, who's just getting better. This fight does nothing for Usman, but I think he rolls. The only way that I see Meek getting the win would be something similar to the Paul Harris fight from Venator, where it's just like where it's sledgehammer elbows basically to the face. Otherwise, I think he grinds him, beats him down, breaks him, and probably gets a finish. I don't think it'll be an early finish, but if he's scoring enough takedowns here, it's tough to fully fade him, but the price is hard. What's your take here?
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I don't really understand why Usman would take this fight because, like you said, it does nothing for him.
Nobody else would fight him.
Who, Usman?
Nobody wants him. And everybody's been kind of booked recently.
Everyone's been booked recently, but what do you get out of
Condit just fought Neil Magny. These guys are fighting around the same time. I bet you both of those guys would send contracts, be like, hey, you want to fight Kamaru Usman? They're like, nah, because the general public has no idea who this guy is yet, and he's an absolute murderer. He may be the best guy in the world. I think he can beat Tyron Woodley right now.
Dude, listen, we're on the same page for sure, right? But all I'm saying is if you're looking at the other guys in the division, right, at least Covington's getting the Damian Maia fight. And at least Santiago Ponzinibbio's getting the Mike Perry fight. Yeah. And at least Darren Till's getting the Donald Cerrone fight. See what I mean?
That just shows you how scared everybody in this division is of Kamaru Usman.
I pick Usman over almost all of them.
Yeah.
I would actually probably pick him over Tyron Woodley as well. But that's just because he goes out there and just like a Colby Covington, he puts a pace on you, man. These grinding style wrestlers, like if you know you can get the fight to the ground and you know you can go 15, 20, 25 minutes, pretty much no problem. And you know you got a chin, how are you going to beat this guy? Like, these guys are just, they're on the next level. And Kamaru Usman's super impressive. Being that he's been so long now with the Blackzilians and Henry Hoof, you do notice that his striking is getting much better. He wasn't really a finisher. Most of his fights typically tend to go to decision, but you're seeing that he's adding new tricks into his game, right? He's adding new wrinkles to his game, I should say. So I definitely like him. But once again, if you're trying to position yourself in a position to get a title shot, then you need to fight some of these bigger name guys. You need to get into that public conscience. Taking on Meek, who, do you remember the last time Meek fought against Jordan Mean? Over a year ago?
Yeah,
he never had a fight.
He looked good. He looked fine.
No, he didn't. Jordan Mean won the first round. It was a terrible fight. Jordan Mean completely gassed out because he hadn't fought in a while. He gassed after I.
And then he retired, and then he's still fought before Meek has kind of turned around, which is kind of crazy.
Fought, I think, a couple times since Meek. You know what I mean?
Just once, right?
Was it just the? I can check for you right now.
This is his last fight. Either way.
Did he? Okay, so he fought Meek, then he fought Bilal Muhammad, then he fought Eric Silva. So the guy that lost has now squeezed two fights.
The Muhammad fight.
Yeah, it was fairly forgettable. Not as forgettable as Meek versus Jordan Mean. That was a terrible fight. And the guy gets really tired and you're able to hustle out rounds 2 and 3 on him. I get it. It wasn't a particularly good performance in my eyes. But now you've been sitting on the sidelines for so long, and then he had an injury first of all, then he had a visa issue. Now he's been sitting, I think, for 12 or 13 months, maybe even 14 months. you'll fight anybody. By the way, it's not like he's the only guy that'll fight Usman. He was trying to fight Mike Perry with those sketchy-ass videos of him going, Perry, which obviously didn't help sell the fight.
He's a funny guy. I like him.
He's funny.
And it's good. Keep him around. Like, he's got a good little gimmick that he's got, but he's stepping into a world of hurt.
Okay.
I think we've talked enough about it. Like,
yeah, fair enough. But
what's your final thought?
My final thought is, using my classic line, the styles make fights, he is fun. He does have a good personality. He used to come out with the battle axe. He likes to throw hands, Valhalla. I dig it. But those guys should probably be fighting strikers. Him versus Mike Perry would be fun. Him versus Darren Till would be fun. You know what I mean? What I'd rather see Usman fight is Gunnar Nelson's calling out people. Gunnar Nelson wants to fight. Gunnar Nelson got finger blasted worse than a virgin on prom night his last fight out. He wants to get back in there, and he wants to have a good performance. Let him fight Usman, right? What is Usman going to do? Take him down? Probably. But what happens? It's interesting. Here it just seems very straightforward. Could Meek land that shot? Yeah, it's MMA, and they're tiny little gloves, and you got elbows at your disposal, and maybe he runs right into a knee. Sure, but Usman's just the better athlete. He's got the better game plan. He's got the better style, and that's just going to ground Meek out. I think this one's going to go 3 rounds. You could originally get this fight for -500, and you could take him by decision and get some better value, but at this point, it's -650. Now, on DK, my original lineup, I had squeezed him on from the 9,400 because I thought to myself, Meek's pretty tough, and he's pretty durable. Maybe he'll get back up, and they get peeled right back down. And similar to a Colby Covington, even if he doesn't finish you, the takedowns and just the ground and pound.
Amount of punishment on that ground.
Yeah, and you know what? You get some ground transitions thrown in the mix too. You might be able to take his back, but mostly you just stay in half guard or side control and pound this guy. Even if you can guard, pound this guy. Posture up, pound this guy. They'll get 100 points. So I liked him. 9,400, whatever. I'll pay the piper. But ultimately, then you got to take someone really bad in your lineup. And so I pivoted off of him and picked someone that we're going to talk about in a little bit here. But I don't mind it. As far as DK goes, he should be able to score pretty well. It's just, it's a big price tag.
Michael Johnson takes on Darren Elkins in 145-pound, a featherweight debut for Michael Johnson. 8,600 on DK for Johnson, 7,600 for Elkins, -155 on the betting line, +135. Elkins, I'm worried. Michael Johnson, if this was... When I was making the boards and stuff for this, I was thinking, I was like, oh, is Elkins, like, Elkins been on a run at 145. Is he moving up to 155 to take this fight? Because then I would probably have been leaning Michael Johnson, who's a great technical striker, collegiate wrestler. I think it's a tough stylistic matchup. Then I see that, you know, it's at 145. Then I hear that, like, Michael Johnson's, like, terrified and has nightmares about the weight cut to get down here because he hasn't really gotten there yet. And then I start hearing about Michael Johnson complaining about why am I on the prelims, man?
I'm from St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm from St. Louis. You're the featured prelim. Like, he's all
good fight.
It seems like his head is in a lot of different places. He's got a good point. Like, I think rather than Paige Van Zant being on the main card, you know, Michael Johnson versus Darren Elkins is a fight I'm looking more forward to, but they don't book the cards this way. Either way, we got striker versus the epitome of a grinder. You got to save somewhere along this card, and if Michael Johnson has a tough weight cut, we come in, we're going against Darren Elkins. You know Darren Elkins only gets better as the fight goes on. If Michael Johnson gets a little bit tired, you know, I think Michael Johnson's got about 7 minutes in that first round to put it on Darren Elkins. Otherwise, there's a storm of brewing. And it's, oh, that fell. There's a storm of brewing, and it's the damage, and he's going to take over. Like, that Mirsad Bektic comeback victory. It's just the quintessential never count Darren Elkins out. 7,600, I think you do a lot worse than Darren Elkins. Like, he is so tough. Like, Michael Johnson is going to be very hard pressed to put him away. You're probably getting 3 rounds, worst case scenario, unless Elkins finishes, in my mind.
Yeah, shockingly, Elkins, 5-fight winning streak, which I shouldn't say shocking. Like, we all know how durable the guy is, and he's a really hard worker, probably the hardest worker, if you just see the way that guy goes in there and puts the grind on people. And everyone always says, oh, the damage. That's the damage he sustains in order to put that pressure on you. But a 5-fight winning streak, I mean, I just think most people didn't think it was possible. The move from Indiana to Team Alpha Male has made the world of difference for him, because now he's training with like-minded guys that are savvy, you know, good grapplers and guys that like to grind. But also, there's a lot of good athletes there. Yeah. This guy's not very athletic.
No.
He's just a hard
But he's
worker.
got everything else. He's got the heart and the determination, the chin, the toughness.
He'll track you down. Now, being in a gym full of guys that have good footwork and who are fast and who are athletic and who are talented, then he's probably just learned, how do I track these guys down? How do I break these guys? And it's made the world of difference for him. With Michael Johnson, I mean, Michael Johnson's got a puncher's chance against anybody. And we talk about this all the time. Oh, it's MMA. Anything could land. Then you watch a fight where you're so sure your guy's going to win and he gets KO'd. And the first thing that comes up to your head is,
well, Elkins versus Bektic.
Yeah, just like anything could always happen. But I mean, a guy like Michael Johnson literally epitomizes that, because he's not just one of those fluke shot guys. He's I set this punch up, and if it lands, it's going to put you in a world of hurt. Yeah, he rocked Khabib, the only guy to do it. But beyond that,
he did not.
Look at the Dustin Poirier fight where he touches you and you go down. The guy's 1-4 in his last 5 fights, but the win he's got is spectacular. And some of these other fights, the Khabib fight, in the first round, looked pretty good. The Justin Gaethje fight.
Beginning of the second round,
in the first round, you looked pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, I think you made a good point when you said
he's got skills.
Yeah, when you say he's got 7 minutes.
He beat Edson Barboza.
Beat Edson Barboza by tracking him down and putting it on him, right? But he tends to struggle with those guys that are going to take him into deep waters and put a pace on him. The Khabib fight, yeah, if you look good in the first round, when he does get taken down, he getting grinded hard. By the second and third round, I would never accuse this guy. Sometimes I say, oh, this guy quit. I'm never going to accuse Michael Johnson of quitting.
Quit, man. Like,
there was just nothing he could do.
No.
That's how it feels to be
helpless. That's what Khabib does to people.
If you're watching the show and you're, not at least a jiu-jitsu purple belt, but if you're a white belt or a blue belt, go and roll a black belt. And you get this really helpless feeling where you think to yourself, there's nothing in the world.
I'm drowning.
There's literally nothing I can do right now. And that's the thing against Khabib. Now, Khabib does that against everybody. But Gaethje, it's a different style completely. He's not going to fight you the way he does Khabib. But the pace is just too much. Now, Michael Johnson seems fatigued. Is he fatigued? Well, only because he's got about 6 rounds worth of work in the first 5 minutes of the fight. Like, it's such a trepid pace.
Well, now he's going up against a guy who's going to bring a similar type of pace, and
he's going down a weight
He's going down 10 pounds.
Which should zap him, right?
Like, he wasn't a small 155-pounder.
No, he's also 31 years old, right? So it's not like he's...
It's a bad spot for him, man.
I just feel like when you are 1-4 in your last 5 and you still want that title shot, you still want that big fight, but then you think to yourself, you said, well, who am I losing against? Beneil Dariush. Okay, well, he's a big 55er. And Nate Diaz. Okay, well, he's a huge 55er. And Justin Gaethje. That guy could never make 145. And Khabib. Well, he's a huge 55er. Like, all these guys are big. So at some point, you're losing, and you gotta not come up with an excuse, but what's wrong? Well, maybe I'll try 145. But similar to like when we were talking about Gilbert Melendez, just dropping down a weight class isn't always the answer. I'm going to give him a shot here. I'm going to take Michael Johnson. I'm going to think that, similar to that Chad Mendes fight, if you land one hard on Elkins, he will flop over and go down. And I hope Michael Johnson will be able to land that shot. But if this goes the other way, there's great value here on Elkins, both on DK and the straight-up bet. I don't think anybody's a fool for betting Elkins. I think that Elkins is more than capable of winning this fight, but I'm going to stick with Johnson one more time here.
James Krause, 8,400. Alex White, 7,800. Minus 160 for James Krause. Plus 140, Alex White. I have basically, any of the lineups I've made, this is kind of a fight that I've more or less avoided. I have taken White in a couple spots, but this is a tricky spot. And James Krause, Glory MMA Fitness, him, Cummings, these are the hometown guys from this area. So this is kind of to stay away for the most part. I'm not betting this fight. That's for damn sure. What you take?
I gotta go with Krause, to be honest with you. I mean, there's times where I think to myself, boy, this guy is not trustworthy. But it's important to note that he's dropping back down to 155 pounds. So as much as I didn't think he looked great against Tom Galicchio, this guy's actually a pretty savvy grappler. I mean, we always think about his kickboxing credentials. There's times where he goes out there and he's got a beautiful high kick, he's got a beautiful liver kick, he's got fast hands, he moves well, he moves laterally very well. You think of him as a striker, but dude, once he just gets down to his wrestling chops, he'll best these guys. You look at the fight with Shane Campbell. Shane Campbell's a former Muay Thai world champion, and he's taking on James Krause. It looks like a striker's delight, but the guy's smart enough to realize, I'm just going to ground him. I'll ground him over and over. You look at the fight with Galicchio, he can do that. He was on The Ultimate Fighter at 170 pounds, taking on big guys. Ramsey Nijum is a big dude, right? Now, mind you, he used to fight at 155 as well, but he's a former collegiate wrestler and a tough, durable guy. Krause can go out there and he can, if he needs to out-grapple you, he'll out-grapple you. If he needs to outstrike you, he can still do that. 170, not his weight class, but going down to 155, he'll be a little better suited. Now, in recent years, it seems like he's just been a little bit distracted, because as you mentioned,
Well, he runs his own gym.
he runs his own gym, and he's got tough guys in his gym. Tim Elliott was in his gym. Cummings was in his
He
gym.
was supposed to be on The Ultimate Fighter too, wasn't he?
He was on The
Or he
Ultimate
was
Fighter.
on The Ultimate Fighter, sorry.
And he really didn't do all that bad, man. All things considered, right?
He should have won.
Should
He was the one guy who jumped off the page like, why is he on this show?
Well, he was the only guy that currently had a contract, so you got to think to yourself, why is a guy that currently has a contract fighting on the show whatsoever? But the fact that he beat Johnny Nunez, who's just impregnated Misha Tate, and then you got Ramsey Ninja, it's true.
Fact.
Fact. Ramsey Ninja, right, who I get used to fight at 155, and then his loss is to Jesse Taylor, who, A, three things here. One, my boy. B, on steroids.
It popped right afterwards.
Well, it was on tough, so he popped right after that.
I mean, like after the show was done.
Yeah. And 3 is huge.
He is massive.
Is huge. You're not going to beat him. And I said right from the beginning that Jesse Taylor would win that season because he's so big, and he's just going to be able to beat these guys who are 55ers who are trying to moonlight as 170s. So I think Krause is going to be big enough. Now you look at his run, the Shane Campbell, the Darren Cruikshank fight. Those guys are strikers that he can take down. Alex White is a pretty one-dimensional boxer. He's a tough guy, but look at his fight with Tony Martin. Tony Martin doesn't even have to throw any strikes. He just grounds him when he wants to ground him. And then his last fight against Mitch Clark, talk about playing T-ball. I mean, that one's just sitting there right on you, hit it. I like Mitch Clark. He's a nice guy, but he's not winning at this level.
No.
He's got the one win over Ali Quinta.
Regional level fighter, and it was a lucky win against Ali Quinta.
By the way, Mitch Clark lost to Alex White, and right away he's like, yeah, I'm going to retire. Yeah. I say this one's going to be Krause. I think this one's going to be Krause by decision. The thing is, I don't really like it on DK because I could see it being a really boring pace. But to answer your question and a lot of people's questions of, is his head in a different place? It might be. Maybe he's thinking about retirement, but he's in Missouri. He's in front of his friends and family. This fight means something to him. He's got Cummings on the card as well, so he doesn't got coach hat on where I got to get Cummings ready. It's like, yo, let's get ready together, right? Let's do this together. Let's get in awesome shape. Let's go out there and deliver in front of our friends, our family. And hey, if it is close, and this one could be close, mostly a grappling affair in which I think he's going to win the grappling exchanges, but if it is close, home cooking, baby!
Very, very, very possible. All right, moving on down the card, we got Matt Frevola, 8,900, taking on Marco Polo Reyes, who can be had for 7,300. What's your take here?
I got to go with Frevola. The thing is, it's a pint-sized taste. I mean, he's only 6-0, and we saw him win the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series fight. But yeah, he looked pretty good. And the other thing is that he's a grappler. He trains out of New York. He's training with good guys. He trains at that it's Luongo and Weidman, Longo and Weidman. It's called Law, L-A-W.
Yeah.
So he trains out of there, and as well, I think, like Gracie Tampa. So, yeah, I mean, he's a good grappler, and I think
he's
with
on
Polo
Dana
Reyes,
White Contender Series.
He's on Dana White Contender Series.
He had a good performance there.
And he looked good. The thing is that he's only 6-0. So when I look at the value, I mean, on DK, he's very expensive. And as far as the actual betting line goes, he's pretty much unheralded. He's never lost, so we can't really... I like guys that have lost before, because you can see what did they do wrong.
Khabib's never lost.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing with Khabib. If Khabib was 9-0 or 10-0, I would be worried. But he's 25-0, right?
He came in at like what, 18-0?
Yeah, but it also helps.
Of like fighting absolute nobody cans in Russia, like that. You see that all the time.
Some of them are pretty tough, but it also helps that he did get rocked against Michael Johnson. It also helps that the Gleison-Tebow fight was pretty dicey, because even though he didn't lose, you're going to learn from those situations. And whereas he hasn't lost in the ring, he's probably lost a lot outside of the ring. The knee injuries, the training so hard at AKA, and being surrounded by all these tough guys all the time. You know what I mean? He's grown as a character. He's 1 in a million, dude. How many fighters have you seen that are 25-0, that have fought in legitimate competition? It just doesn't happen. So yeah, he's a pass. This kid's 6-0. At some point, he's going to get exploited. But
is Polo Reyes the guy?
Polo Reyes is 33, and I'm just never impressed with him. He had a fight of the year against Dong Hyun Kim.
Not that Dong
The
Hyun
other
Kim.
Dong Hyun Kim.
The good Dong Hyun Kim at this point.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that he's training at Alliance. I appreciate the fact that he's putting in the hours, and he is a fun, exciting little fighter. But he's the kind of guy that, especially because he is a striker-first kind of guy, that if you're going to match him up against a guy like Frevola, who is known as the steamroller, mostly because it rhymes with Frevola, but also because it's kind of what his style is. He'll mow you to the ground, and he'll be able to get these.
And he may be able to secure these takedowns. That's actually
price,
a good matchup.
At his price on DK, he's got to get the submission. The thing is they're just not fully sold on him because he hasn't fought the best guys in the world. And whereas Polo Reyes obviously hasn't fought the best guys in the world, he went through a season of tough. He trains at a gym with elite level guys. He is 33 years old, so he is going to be a little savvy. And quite frankly, it's possible that he springs it. I briefly, for all of a half second, considered playing Polo Reyes as a bit of a punt on DK. The thing is, he's one of those guys that if he is going to lose, it won't be like Paige Van Zant where if she loses, you know, she'll be able to get 3 rounds in. Or
he'll get knocked out and you'll be like, well, he was kind of a fraud.
He'll get choked out in the first round. I don't think he'll get knocked out.
He won't get choked out.
Who?
Frevola?
No, I'm talking Polo Reyes.
Oh, okay.
Polo Reyes I would play because he's so cheap.
Yeah.
But if he loses his fight, he's going to get diced with a submission in the first round.
He could be one of the more popular underdogs too on this card.
He's got a
just
shot.
Because you got to pay down if you're going to pay up, and we got a guy making a debut at minus, at 8,900. Like that's a hefty price to pay for somebody who's fought on Dana White Contender Series, and those guys are 50-50 coming into the UFC. Anyway, let's move on down the card. We got Thiago Alves taking on Zach Cummings, another St. Louis native guy. Cummings, 8,800 on DK. Thiago Alves, 74. Minus 200 for Cummings, plus 170 for Alves. Alves, I think, is a shell of himself. I know he did have a good performance in his last fight versus...
Was it good? Pat Cote.
Versus Pat Cote, but...
When you beat a guy who announces his retirement immediately after, it always begs the question of, did he have one foot out the door? I don't know, right? So, I don't know, man. I honestly just feel like Thiago Alves is one of those guys that not only is he a shell of himself, but like, he's a shell of the shell that he used to be. Think about back in the day when he was beating Karo Parisian and Josh Koscheck. But then you got to think to yourself, where are those guys?
Yeah.
Where's Matt Hughes at? Where are any of the guys that he was beating back when he was at the top of his game? When he lost to Georges St. Pierre, that was ages ago. That was so long ago. Since then, the guy basically
not the guy
retired.
you thought he was anymore.
No, and then he's another one of those guys like a Michael Johnson who thinks to himself, maybe I'll just drop down a weight class. You can't. You were a massive 170 at the time. You struggled to make 170. You think you're going to make 55? No, you make 63. Jim Miller wipes your ass, right? Yeah. And now all of a sudden, wow, I'll just come back up. The Jordan Mean fight, he was taking a beating. But he lands that body kick, and but then he takes more time off, and he has injuries. And his last fight, Paul, this is what gets me. It's just maybe a mindset thing. His last fight's against Mike Perry. That's tailor-made for a guy like this. He doesn't really want to grapple, I don't think. I don't think he wants to grapple. I think he wants to have a stand-up battle. Mike Perry is almost tailor-made for guys that fancy themselves high-level strikers, and this is a really fun fight, and it's high profile. And you know what he says? Man, there's a hurricane in Florida. I can't have this fight. My dog died. I'm pulling out. Listen, my dog died. You wouldn't see me for a long time. I get it. You love your dog. You go and you fight Mike Perry, man. This is your job. You're a professional athlete. No, you just sit on the sidelines for another couple months until something else comes up. Cummings is bigger. Cummings is stronger. Cummings has made a lot of improvements standing, but is very good. I think
he's one of the most underrated guy, basically, in the world.
Hands down.
Maybe not in the world, in the division. He's a guy that nobody talks about. He's pretty technically sound. He's really awkward, but a bunch of those guys from that Glory or the Krause team, basically. Tim Elliott. Like I know that Tim Elliott's moved on, but all of those guys kind of have like a bit of an awkward style to them, but they're effective in all facets of the game, pretty well-rounded. Like they're not an easy out on any given night. With Alves, we're kind of just dealing with a guy who still has a name. With Cummings, he's reached probably the level that he's going to get to, but I always like attaching myself, whether it's betting or DK, to Cummings because I know that I'm going to get consistent performance from this guy every single time out. When we looked at like Frevola versus Cummings, they're separated by 100. You save 100 on Cummings, and I know what I'm going to get with Cummings. I can't say the same thing for Frevola. Yeah. And we're going to move on to we got 3 ladies fights coming up. We got Jessica Ai taking on Kalindra Faria, Irene Aldana taking on Talita Bernardo, and JJ Aldrich taking on Danielle Taylor. I versus Faria. I and Faria are both 8,100 on DK. Pretty much a straight pick'em. Jessica Ai's what? 1-5 in her last 6 fights. That's at 135.
Is it 1-4?
I thought it was 1-5. I think she's won 1 of her last 6 fights.
Yeah, her first one against Leslie Smith.
Yeah.
With a blown up ear. Not looking sense.
But, you know, when she came over from Bellator, 125 was actually her division. She came over as a 135-pounder. Now that they actually have this division here, maybe we'll see a breakout performance from her. Faria, like in her UFC debut against Borrello, scored literally a goose egg. 0 points. She got taken down, mounted, subbed, game over. That's all. So, you know, this is a girl with a lot of experience.
She's fought.
But she did not show up on fight night. We were talking at the beginning that there's a lot of question marks on this card. I'm leaning I here. Maybe I'll fit I into a couple lineups, but I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I got to go Jessica I for... It's not like I'm confident in it, but if you want the reasons why I'm going Jessica I, and I'll just fire right through them quickly, is that, yeah, she's got a bad losing streak going right now. She's lost 4 in a row. But first and foremost, 125 is her weight class. Yeah. 135 was never a good weight class for her.
And she's too big for 115.
She's way too big to make 115. So 125, finally, she'll be able to compete in a good weight class. Second of all, it's really easy to just see 4-fight losing streak. She got robbed against Betchko. First of all, it was in her own backyard at Cleveland. And second of all, I just thought she won that fight. And if she didn't throw as much, because that's the thing with her, she's a technical boxer, but sometimes she doesn't go and get at it. If she doesn't go out there and dominantly win the round, then you're leaving it up in the air. That I don't like. But because she's on a 4-fight losing streak, because she realizes if I lose this fight, it's by the glory of God, the graces of God, that I've been able to stay on the UFC roster with a 4-fight losing streak. If I lose this fight, surely I'm done. So there's going to be a little more urge to go out there and get it. But also Faria is a striker as well. She doesn't really want to roll around. So she's going to play into Jessica I's hand here. If you're looking at Jessica I, look at these losses here. Misha Tate, Juliana Pena, Sarah McMahon. They're all huge bantamweights who are grappling specialists. Yeah, but they're all good grapplers. Yep. So against them, they're going to go out there and they're going to take her down. Against someone that's going to stand in front of you and throw strikes, this girl's slick. This girl's got good boxing. She's finally fighting at the weight class that she deserves to be in. She's coming off a decent performance against Betchko, in which I honestly did think she win. And back's definitely up against the wall. So Faria...
It's probably part of the Stipe champ camp.
Yeah, Faria's had some good performances in the past.
They're not banging it out.
Yeah, but it looks like she's definitely had good performances in the past, but she's also struggled against girls that weren't that big at 115 pounds. So she's going up to 125, which is probably a better weight class for her too. But ultimately speaking here, I think I's a little sharper, a little quicker. She'll land, she'll beat her to the punch, and I think she's going to edge out the decision. 8,100, I don't mind it, but that's a cash game play, not a GPP for me.
Yeah, because the upside is maybe 80 points, that type of thing.
Because it's easy to say, well, Faria got diced out so quicker last time. Maybe I can do that. It's like it's a different fight.
Jitters, everything like that.
Everything. Yeah. She's also been off for a little bit, you know. So
Arena Aldana takes on Talita Bernardo. Aldana, super expensive at the top here. She is 9K. Talita Bernardo, 7,200. Aldana came in. She's part of like the Grasso, like the Lobo boxing club, basically out of Mexico. We know she's got a high volume striking, but she's 0-2 in the UFC. She probably should have won her last fight
against Chikagian.
Yeah.
You thought so?
Yeah, it was close though. But
I didn't have her winning that. It was a good fight though.
I don't know if she can stop the takedown.
She stopped 11 of them against Chikagian.
Yeah, Chikagian does. Bernardo was able, for what she lacked, and she gassed super hard in round 3 against Marion Renault. She's able to take her down 3 times.
Gassed in round 2.
She was able to take her down, Marion Renault down 3 times. And
mostly in the first round.
I think those styles are pretty close, but I think Irina Aldana to Marion Renault are probably pretty similar. Aldana would be a little bit better striker, but I think her takedown defense and ground game is definitely way behind Marion Renault. When you have to save, I think you could do worse than Talita Bernardo. Probably won't be owned all that much because most people don't really know who she is. 7,200, and her path to victory, this is a GPP play. Her path to victory is get them takedowns. Maybe Irina Aldana gets back up and you take her back down. That's how you stockpile points in DK. It's a punt play for me, Talita Bernardo.
Yeah, I think you're reading my mind here. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. When I was looking at that bottom end of fighters, it's not like if you were just looking at this card and they're all 50-50s, you'd be like, oh, Talita Bernardo, I'm backing her up. But when you look at the value and you know you need some value, then I think you could do way worse than her. First and foremost, she took that debut against Marion Renault on very short notice. Marion Renault was in the Netherlands preparing to fight Jermaine Durandamy. Durandamy got hurt, and they needed someone at the last second, and that's why she came in. So yeah, she gassed out quick, but she was on really ultra short notice. Whereas you look at Irene Aldana has been training in MMA for 6 years. She's 29 years old. She picked up the sport at 23. That's super late to just decide, I want to get into MMA. But because she's Mexican, she's got almost that classic Mexican style where she's a great boxer.
She's a good boxer, but
she's a good boxer.
We're not boxing
She
here.
lists her hero as Julio Cesar Chavez, right? Not Junior, thankfully. But she likes to go out there and she likes to throw them hands. And against Leslie Smith, who's a striker, and Caitlin Chukagian, who's a striker, you can do that. Now, yeah, Chukagian goes 0-11 for takedowns against her, but she's tall, she doesn't have that low center of gravity, and she's not really a wrestler. She's kind of like a poor woman's Holly Holm. That's kind of how she fights.
Yep.
When you look at Bernardo, no relation to Paul, by the way, she goes for she's 5'4" against 5'9".
I actually told Pat, just to cut you off, I told Pat before the show, I got that out of my system, that exact same joke. I said I wasn't going to say it on air. I'm glad that you did. All right, carry on.
Hopefully she fights like him. But anyways, she goes out there and she just gets power takedowns. Even if you look at anything that she has on the regional scene, she goes out there and she gets these power takedowns. She takes these girls down, she submits them. But she's just not fighting anybody of note. But she's a former Jessica Andrade training partner, and Jessica Andrade's a good striker. This girl not a good striker almost at all, like a really bad striker.
I didn't see anything from her on the feet, but that's what
like
that's not what
nothing.
I want from her.
That's what I'm saying. You got to pick up one thing at a time. So what I'm getting back at is if you look at Aldana's been training MMA for 6 years, right? And where she's picked up a good fundamental style of boxing and she's got good movement, she's got good cardio, that's almost where it ends. We haven't really seen her on her back getting punished. We don't know how she's going to react to that. Bernardo's a black belt. She's been a black belt for a little while now. Her husband is her head coach. He's also a black belt. So I just feel like if you're going to take a punt play, this girl can get takedowns. And when she does get takedowns, she can positionally, she's very sound. I didn't like that she rolled for the knee bar against Marion Renault. It's like you got to go for position first.
She was trying to go for the kill.
But she's trying to go for stuff. And she probably realizes, man, I just don't have the cardio to fight this girl for 15 minutes. I'm on short notice. So I'm going to try to break her leg. And if it works, great. And if not, even when she is tired, she does complete some takedowns. And Marion Renault, by the way, is also a black belt. So I think you could do a lot worse than her. If you're putting a gun to my head, I think Aldana will outwork her. She will tire. She's just so physically imposing, and she's fighting a girl who's got an endless gas tank. I mean, Aldana doesn't slow down. If the fight stays standing and she's unable to get those takedowns, her striking is so bad, Paul, she's not going to be able to defend herself. She's just going to take open shots. The fact that she got TKO'd with 3 seconds left in the round against Betch, that doesn't really show you much, right? I just feel like, gun to my head, Aldana. But $7,200 on DraftKings, that allows me to afford all the other players that I would
Usman
like.
in there and to
not necessarily
a lot
Usman,
of my lineups,
but some of those other players.
Yeah, full disclosure, a lot of my lineups have not like probably 70% of them have Bernardo and Elkins, and then I have flexibility to get a whole bunch of other people in. Those are the two people for the most part from the bottom of the pile that I've been targeting.
Yeah.
So watch, it'll be a Michael Johnson and a Arena Aldana first round knockouts, but that's the game we play.
Yeah, hey, no, that's the game you play. You're basically stepping on mines and hoping that some of them are faulty, and the ones you're stepping on are faulty. The ones you're not stepping on, kaboom.
JJ Aldrich versus Danielle Taylor. We got JJ Aldrich at 8,300, Danielle Taylor 7,900, pretty close to a pick'em, but Aldrich is -130 favorite. And Taylor plus 110. I don't want any part of this fight on DK. I know that you love JJ Aldrich.
I was going to say, I want all of this fight.
On DK?
Oh, well,
Danielle
JJ
Taylor,
Aldrich is
Danielle Taylor is fantasy cancer. Yeah. Not just for herself. Like, if you take her, she's won fights with, like, and she got, like, 40 points at the end. She got, like, a 3-round fight against Morose, and she scored like 7 points. She just circles. She's so short. She's like 5 feet tall. Aldrich is 5'5", and like she's got reach advantage. All these things. But that doesn't even matter to Taylor. She'll just stay outside of your range. So she's leaps and bounds outside of her own range.
Yeah.
So she'll just circle around, and nothing will happen. So she's cancer not only to herself or to if you have her on your team. She's also cancer to whoever her opponent is.
Yeah.
I want no part of this fight. Like, this is 100% fade all the way around. From a betting perspective, -130 on JJ Aldrich sounds pretty all right to me.
Yeah, I hear you. I honestly think Danielle Taylor should change her theme song to the Pulp Fiction theme, where it comes out, it's like, everybody freeze! This is a robbery! Because that's all she does. Literally, she could very easily be 0-3 in the UFC. The last fight against Jessica Panay, terrible fight. I didn't think she won it. The fight against Seo Hee-ham, terrible fight. Didn't think she won it. And the fight against Marina Moroz, the worst of the three, didn't think she won it. She's 5 feet tall with a 60-inch reach.
She does nothing.
That is the shortest reach, I believe, in UFC history. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen anything less than 60 inches.
Dudieva may have had a 59.
I'm going to check that later because I would love to know. She's tiny. She should fight at atom weight, but she's never even fought there. She's always fought at 115, and apparently a couple times at 125, although I just find that one baffling altogether. Yeah. But it's important to note here, so she's like a sheriff's deputy in Los Angeles, right? So she's got a full-time job. And not only does she have a full-time job, but she has a demanding job. So she basically works all day. She gets off work at 4:30, and then from there she'll go and she'll do her strength and conditioning, and then she'll go and do an hour of wrestling and an hour of Muay Thai. She got into combat sports because she was a cop. Yeah. And she needed to know how to defend herself.
Yeah, fair.
So she got into it a little bit late. She's 28 years old now. She's been training for 6 or 7 years. She had her first fight in like 2013, right? JJ Aldrich has been training martial arts since she was 9 years old. When she was 18 years old, Paul.
We talk about this all the time.
She fought Raquel Pennington when she was 18 years old in like 2010. She's got so much more experience. It's just you don't really see it because she's got a 5-2 record. It just doesn't look like on paper she's more experienced. People look at Danielle Taylor, oh, she's fought more in the UFC, and she was the former King of the Cage champ, and she's got a couple fights that have gone beyond 3 rounds because they were championship fights. It looks like she's the more experienced fighter, but basically I just really don't think she is.
Lifelong martial artist versus people who picked it up super late. It's like when we had Paige Van Zant taking on Michelle Waterson. Like, we sat here at not this desk, but a different desk, and told you, like, Waterson's gonna cream her. Why? Because one person's been doing this since they were like 5 years old, and the other one picked it up a few years ago.
That's
like,
it.
You can't get that good in that short a period of time. You can't cheat time in this sport.
Well,
unless you're Francis Ngannou and you're just a complete monster. But
yeah,
there's obviously exceptions to everything.
Yeah, but now when you got a girl that's been mostly striking her entire life, it's like, well, how can I expose this girl? Hey, you know what? Grapple her. Tatiana Suarez. Ooh, just take her down and no grapple her. That's what she does. Juliana Lima. Take her down. But those girls are big, strong, physical 115-pounders who can grapple.
And are lifelong.
Yeah,
like
Juliana Lima was
Suarez.
Oh, she could have been at the Olympics.
Lifelong,
like
wrestler.
And Juliana Lima, even though she comes from that Muay Thai background, just look at any of her fights, man. This girl wants to grapple, and she's very strong. She's very physical. When you look at Danielle Taylor is not really. She'll go for a takedown the odd time, but she is a striker first kind of girl. She stays way on the outside, like you say. She never is ever in the center of the octagon. She's always on the base of the cage.
And she'll circle around. She'll pop in every once in a while.
That
is not what you want on DK. You want no part of that on DK.
No.
I don't think you want Aldrich because of that either, because people just chase her. She is quick. So people just chase her down, they try to cut her off, but then she'll just run away.
Yeah, fair. But JJ Aldrich,
you want no part of this.
JJ Aldrich has got a 67-inch reach versus the 60 inches for Danielle Taylor.
But so Danielle Taylor will stay 75 inches away. Like she'll be so far out of her own range. She'll be way out of her. Like that's what happened. That's what happened in all of her fights. She gave up like 8 inches of reach to Moroz. It didn't matter. She stayed at she stayed like 4 inches outside of Moroz's reach,
but a couple
which
things
was like
there.
14 inches out of her own reach.
No, see, Moroz only landed, both of them landed 17 significant strikes in that fight. So now nobody actually really
Nothing was significant about that fight.
Nothing happened whatsoever, right? A couple takedowns here and there. It was a really bad fight. The next fight against Seo Hee-ham, I think she very clearly loses the first round. Honestly, I just thought she lost 2 of the 3 rounds for sure. But Seo Hee-ham, who's a natural 105-pounder, is basically her same size. And I thought she lost. Now, Panay seems to be tall. Panay seems to have this reach. She has a 67-inch reach as well. But she's also a former 105-pounder who's a grappler, Paul, right? So now you're putting up against a girl that's going to strike, has the 7-inch reach advantage, that's going to cut off angles. She's not just going to chase her. She's going to cut off angles, and she's going to deliver shots. She's
Danielle Taylor's just going to run away.
Well, whatever. Say what you want.
This is just a fade. This is a great fight to bet. I agree with you on Aldrich. This is not a fight that I want to play on DK. I just don't see the upside in any way, shape, or form.
I'd like to hear what your DK lineup ends up being, because I don't know where you're going to save any money.
We're not giving out lineups here, Cody.
Well, apparently we're not allowed to, but I don't know where you're going to save any of your money. If you're playing a cash game, especially,
I already told you.
I think
Bernardo.
And who else?
And Darren Elkins, 72, 76. Okay. You got a lot of freedom up top.
That's fair.
That's the way I'm looking. I'm going aggressive. I'm taking some stands here, and it's a boom or bust.
I like it. First event of the year, bankroll all the other cards of the year.
Mike Santiago taking on Mads Burnell. I don't have very many takes on this one. I've seen a lot of love for Mike Santiago. I'm not really understanding where that's all coming from. Burnell had a tough first matchup.
They both did, dude.
True.
Zabit Magomed-Sharapov is the future 145-pound champion.
Who's Burnell taking his first fight?
Michel Prazeres.
Yes.
Who's a 155-pound
And
terror.
the monster probably came in at like 180 pounds, as we were saying earlier.
He's as wide as he is tall.
Do you have a hot take on this fight? Because I've been kind of avoiding it.
Been flip-flopping, to be honest. Dude, it's really easy to jump against Sullivan because the thing with Sullivan is that he's got like a 21-11 record, or 10 record.
Santiago, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, Mike Santiago.
Yep.
He's kind of been through the ringer a little bit. If you look at his early fights, dude, he gets caught all the time. He gets submitted very, very easily. His last loss before Sharapov did submit him, but put a world of hurt on him prior to that. But his last loss before that Frankie Perez takes him out in a minute and a half. Before that, he took on a journeyman 10-10 fighter named Mike Medrano, choked him out in 30 seconds. Before that, he got completely out-grappled by Felipe Nover, losing a 30-27. You just go down this guy's entire record, dude, and he gets submitted rather quickly. But I don't think that's an indication of where he's at now. He had an 11-fight winning streak before signing with the UFC, in which he mostly fought schlubs, but the Mark Cherico fight, he gets taken down, he gets his back taken, he overcomes that, and the guy's got good striking. He does come from a wrestling base, so first and foremost, I think it's easy to say, well, you know, he's getting choked out all the time, he can't stuff a takedown. No, he can stuff a takedown. It's just Felipe Nover is a black belt who's also a collegiate wrestler. Perez is a black belt who also comes from a wrestling base. Mike Medrano fights at 170 pounds and is jacked.
And Zabit is an
Zabit's
absolute
a world-class
guy that in this next year, we're gonna be saying things about that guy.
Of course.
That guy, if he gets the opportunities, if people fight him,
a friend of mine, Sam Zakula,
he should be getting fast track because that guy already has the goods right now.
Yeah, a friend of mine, Sam Zakula, has been all over him for a number of years, and he's been saying for a long time, dude, this guy's 6'1".
Santiago
fights at
hung
145.
with him.
He hung with him. Nasty body kicks. Yeah. Okay, some good body kicks. The thing is that when the guy's 6'1" and you're 5'9", it's hard to close that distance. So he has a world of trouble trying to close the distance. Yep. But he scores some takedowns. He lands some good body kicks. It was a good account of himself. The Cherico fight, he's hot fire, man. He goes out there again with the kicks. He likes to use those kicks set up. He uses a nice little head kick, and when he closes that distance, he lands those shots. So I don't think that he's all that bad. You look at the record and you think, wow, what a crappy record. But it isn't all that bad. I don't mind him. Flip side to that, I see some people are liking Burnell. I just not sold in him in the slightest bit. First and foremost, he's a BJJ black belt who's 23 years old.
But if you I got a real problem with that, if you don't have the wrestling or the chain wrestling to get the fight to the ground against guys at UFC level, like, your black belt means nothing.
Well, Burnell's father was a wrestler.
Unless you're Damian Maia, who put together such a chain, like an amazing style of chain wrestling that he was able to. And that was over a long process that he was able to do that.
Yeah.
I see a lot of these guys that are BJJ black belts, but just like, everyone knows how to stuff a takedown against an average person at this level, for the most part.
Yeah, well, his father was a wrestler, his grandfather was a wrestler. So he says that wrestling is a family tradition and that he's wrestled since he was a small child. And this is no disrespect to anybody, but he's a Danish wrestler, right? Yeah. Whereas Santiago is wrestling in Chicago, Illinois, baby. That's good wrestling, right? He's an American.
Midwest America.
Yeah, he's an American. So yeah. I do not mean to discredit Mats Burnell whatsoever, but it's different altogether, right? Then you look at the fact that he's 23 years old and he's a BJJ black belt. I strongly disagree with that. You've got to be able to win competitions. I get that he'll be a IBJJF European champ, but he's not a real black belt. Frankie Edgar just got his black belt like last week. And Mads Burnell's 23 years old and he's a black belt. There's levels to this, and he's just not that level. Santiago's a brown belt, and I would say that brown belt is probably going to be equally as good. So it's really easy to look at the fact that Santiago's been submitted a whole bunch, and Burnell is a submission fighter. He's got a couple Japanese neckties on his record. He's a decent submission guy. But I just don't see it. Yep. But if you look at Burnell's loss before the Prazeres fight, he's in a fight against an Estonian fighter named Ott, and he's putting a beating on him, Paul. The first round is just kicking his ass. The second round, he gets caught, and he gets knocked out. And that's what I think is going to happen here with Santiago. He might come in there, he might try to get the fight to the ground, he might push a pace, but eventually he's going to get into a firefight because he tried to do the same thing with Prazeres. He stands upright, he starts slinging. He's a 1-0 pro boxer, even though it's a terrible fight. His boxing match went the distance. All of his pro fights, never knocked a guy out. So I'm not sold on his punching power. I think at some point he's going to start slinging with Santiago. I think Santiago catches him. I like that play on DK. I know Santiago is a little bit overvalued considering he's 0-1 in the UFC and has a bit of a journeyman record, but I think he gets the finish here. So I'm going to play some Mike Santiago and fade Mads Burnell.
Fair enough. We got Ho Kang taking on Guido Cannetti. Kang, 9,200. Cannetti, 7,000. Both of these guys haven't fought in over 2.5 years. Cannetti hasn't fought since UFC 190, Rousey versus Correia. To put that in perspective, Rousey was queen of the world. She was able to beat up Mike Tyson at that point. Or no, they were saying that she could beat up Floyd Mayweather. Obviously, a lot of time has passed. I'm not sure what he's been up to, but I wasn't impressed with him before this long layoff.
But Kang's been on a longer layoff.
Kang's been doing military service, though. We were talking about this outside before we came in. These guys, like Korean Zombie, he came back from military service. He's gone for 2 years. These guys are staying in shape when they're doing that. They're eating a proper diet when you're in the military. I'm a little less worried about that than like hanging out on your couch. It's like when Braga Neto came back not that long ago. And he was just like, I just wasn't feeling like fighting anymore. And then I decided to come back and fight.
I'm no man.
He looked okay in the first round. And round two is just like, this guy don't want to be in here at all.
No. Flat gas, too.
So we'll see what happens with Cannetti. 9,200, just I haven't been able to work Kang into really any lineups just because the price is so high here.
I got him in a lineup.
I think he's going to win.
He's 200 cheaper than Usman and a better ability to just finish the fight. I think he gets I think he gets a first or second round finish, and Usman might be able to just grind out the 3. Okay, well, Guido Cannetti, right? He's coming off a positive USADA test. And if you actually read into the story whatsoever, it's a tainted supplement. Like, he actually got cleared by USADA. They were like, oh, yeah, you know what? You didn't do it. You've been sitting on the sidelines for 2 years trying to fight this. So I really think that Guido Cannetti, he's 38 years old now. He's been sitting on this long layoff. He trains full-time in Argentina. He hasn't made that move to come over. Now, name me a good Argentinian fighter. And don't say Santiago Ponzinibbio, because first of all, he spent a lot of time in Brazil. And second of all, he lives and trains full-time. He lives and trains full-time out of South Florida.
Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you can't say Santiago Ponzinibbio because he's as American. Whatever, dude. Cannetti literally trains out of Argentina. Who's he training with? He runs his own gym with guys that have literally never thrown a punch before. He's showing them how to throw a punch. You look at him on Tough Latin America, and he's getting slaughtered.
You don't have to sell me on Cannetti being a can. You can't spell Cannetti without can.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. All I'm saying is if you look at him on Tough Latin America, he loses his first fight to Marco Beltran, and whatever. Apparently it's a split decision. Cool. Yeah. I get it. But beyond that, man, he gets absolutely KO'd.
He's a guy they probably forgot was on the roster. And then there's like, oh, we got to... Now that he's off his suspension, we got to give this guy a fight. Well,
he loses to Alejandro Perez on the show, but he gets absolutely KO'd. And Perez hasn't really shown any, degree to be
He wasn't able to finish Scott Jorgensen, who was dead on his legs.
Well, he did finish him, but it took him a long time considering he was on one leg. Oh, yeah, dude. He had one leg. He survived.
But he survived a lot longer.
Yeah, he survived like 4 minutes with one leg. It was very shocking. All I'm saying is, though, he gets KO'd in like a minute and a half against Perez. Then beyond that, he has Henry Briones. Sure, it's fight of the night, but he gets KO'd by Henry Briones. The Hugo Viana fight. Hugo Viana is awful.
Hugo Viana has arguably thrown some fights. He's been involved in some real sketchy stuff.
Yeah,
There's that RFA where he's a minus 2,000 favorite.
Against Zach Riley. Zach Riley's actually a really tough guy, but he's 3-3 and he kicked his ass.
Yeah, and then there was another fight in the UFC where there was like crazy line movement. Our boy MMA Investments. You know him on Twitter.
Of course. Val
Turtle.
A good follow.
He's been doing a investigation of UFC Fixgate, and this was one Viana's one of the names. Viana knew that Cannetti was not good enough to try to throw a fight against him.
Yeah. You know? And here's the crazy part
too. He loves throwing fights, so he knew it wouldn't be believable to throw it.
Viana arguably threw that fight. And half of the MMA media members that scored that fight scored it for Viana. That's how bad. Cannetti scored 4 takedowns in that fight, and he's not a takedown guy whatsoever. No. He's a stand and bang guy. If you watch him fight, dude, he is dangerous because when he throws punches, he throws absolutely everything into his punches. But as a result, he tires very, very quickly, Now, if you look at Kang's last fight, which I get was a long time ago, was against Tanaka. Man, this guy's back-taking ability is awesome. Literally, if he has even the slightest opportunity, he just takes the back. Now Tanaka, who's a decent grappler, is able to reverse a lot, but I just don't think Cannetti will be able to do any of that. He's got really strong hips. His striking was ever improving in that fight. And like you said, I mean, he has been on the sideline for a while, but that military service, imagine they said, you have to do your military service. But you go in the room, and half these guys are judo black belts. And half these guys are, you know who was there? Korean Zombie. And you know who was on their way there? Do-Ho Choi. You know who had to do the military service too? Dun-Yun Kim. Like, come on, man. South Korea produces high-level fighters. So you're doing military service with guys that are good athletes, they're good fighters, and your job is to eat right, sleep right, and train these guys how to fight. You're in a room where you've got 100 bodies at your disposal. Cannetti's working in a room with like 6 guys, man. I've seen it, and it sucks. Yeah. And I actually don't mind him. And he's got a kind of a sad story considering he's 38 and he's had to sit on the sidelines for all this time.
That doesn't pay the bills, Code.
Yeah, he can't even pay the bills because he's been sitting on the sidelines for so long. I feel bad for the guy. But ultimately speaking, Kang is nicknamed Mr. Perfect. Let's talk about the other 2 Mr. Perfects real quick. Ernesto Hoost, one of the greatest kickboxers of all time, and Kurt Hennig, one of the greatest athletes or pro wrestlers of all time. I got to roll with Kang here. I think he's going to get the job done. And I think he can knock him out, and I think he can submit him. And I think he gets it down in the first or second round. He's $200 cheaper than Usman, which is why I took...
wildly less owned, that's for sure. Anybody who's paying all the way up there is probably going to take Usman.
People are going to fit every dollar into their lineup because this is not one of those cards where you take 3 dogs and you save $600.
Yeah, but if
like,
you're
going to spend the money.
If you take Usman and Kang on a lineup, like...
No, it's one or the other, and I'm just thinking Kang's better value and higher upside.
Real dicey moves. Anyway, to wrap it up here, basically, if I run through the card, guys I'm looking at, I'm going to have a bunch of Choi, a smidge of hedge on Stevens. Usman, I'm going to have some Elkins, I'm going to have some Zach Cummings, a lot of Toledo Bernardo, 7,200, and her path to victory is to get those takedowns. Maybe you sold me a little bit on some Kang. Maybe we'll have to mix him into the bunch a little bit here.
Yeah, I like him.
And
I like
those
him a
are
lot.
kind of the fights, and the full fade, I don't care what you say. You don't want any part of either side on DK of Aldrich versus Taylor. Like, that's the fade list for me.
Yeah, I'm looking at tough card, but yeah, I'm leaning Do-Ho Choi. I'm leaning Uriah Hall. Going to go Jesse Rose Clark, going to go Kamaru Usman for sure, leaning Michael Johnson, James Krause. I'm going to take Matt Frevola. I'm going to take Zach Cummings. I'm going to take Jessica I, Toledo Bernardo. But once again, it's like you're just chasing value there, to be honest with you. JJ Aldrich, I like her. Mike Santiago, I like him. And Ho Kang.
All right, that is it for us. Hope you enjoyed the show. Want to thank Pat Mayo for obviously providing the Pat Mayo experience in this lovely studio for us. Want to thank all the good people at DK Live, and looks like we're going to have shows coming out every single card moving forward. So for Cody and Pat, I'm Paul saying goodbye and good luck.